हरे कृष्ण प्रभु दंडोत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण माता दंडोत प्रणाम। आनंद श्रील प्रभुपाद गुरुदेव। अंत ओकेना माता?
जय राधे जय राधे
हरे कृष्ण।
जय राधे जय श्री राधे।
श्री गुरु श्री युक्ता पदकमलं श्री गुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्री रूपं प्राप्तजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् प्राप्तं Pravadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Ganta Ishakanta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Vivasadi Gaurata Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadha Vivasadi Gaurata Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Yadvaita Gadadha Vivasati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
So now we're searching for the magic.
Hari 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 Bipale Janama Hari Hari Bipale Janama Hari Hari Bipale Janama Manusha Janama Radha Krishna Bhoji Manusha Janama Radha Krishna Bhoji Jani Krishna Krishna Hari Hari Bipale Jana Golo Kera Golo Kera Golo Kera Janila Keneta Ratina Janila Keneta Hari Hari Vipal Jana Samsara Vishwa Divanish Hari Hari Vipale Jana Rajendra Rajendra
Your strings is still pending.
ये कम गया
ಅದಕ್ಕ ಎಕೋ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನ ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿ
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಖಾಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅಬ್ರಾಡ್ பண்ணிட்டு
ಇದು ಅಪ್ಡೇ ಅದಲ್ಲ ಆನ ಸೆಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ
Hina hina jata Srila Hari Rama Karasha ki jaga Narotama Toma bine ke Hari 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 Janu
Hare Krishna, Vanilla Mataji, Samyukta Mataji, Sapan Kumar Prabhu. Thank you so much for waiting. Let me begin with Mangalacharana prayers and we'll start reading. Okay. Thank you very much.
ಹರೇ
Om
ಕೃಷ್ಣ
Namo
ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ
Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Madhyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kankarvadi Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarva Vasangato Piva Yasmaret Pundarikaksham Sabhyabhyantaram Suchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. Just a second. Yes, I'm just sharing my screen. So far we have done with these topics: the quest for immortality, the mystery of consciousness, the other one, reincarnation, Socrates to Salinger. We have seen many references from different philosophers, scientists, poets, musicians, etc. We have seen. So today we'll start changing bodies. So what book we are reading every day for these days? Can anybody say? What is the book? Hare Krishna. Coming back.
Coming back, Prabhuji. Mute lo మాట్లాడుతున్నాను. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Okay, yeah. Coming back. So how this until this point, Srila Prabhupada talks about how different ways we are coming back. The last chapter he talks about don't come back. So now today we are reading changing bodies. Okay, so I'm sharing here. You are all seeing my screen, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
So this is the dialogue version. Okay, just like in the beginning he started some books with different characters, like, so this is what some different personalities there, Professor Durkheim and Srila Prabhupada, between this conversation. So let us two devotees, one is Prabhupada, one is the other professor. Let us read that way. Okay, you can take turns and read. Okay, yeah, thank you very much again. So I'll read this first paragraph and over to you. Chapter 2, Changing Bodies. In 1974, at the ISKCON Center in the countryside near Frankfurt, West Germany, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had the following dialogue with Professor Karlfried Graf von Durkheim. Professor Durkheim, a noted religious psychologist and author of Daily Life as Spiritual Exercise, holds a PhD in analytical psychology and is renowned for establishing a therapeutic school in Bavaria that incorporates both Western and Eastern approaches to the psychology of consciousness. In this conversation, Srila Prabhupada explains the first and most basic principle of reincarnation, that the spiritual living entity is different from the material body. After establishing that the conscious self and the body are separate entities, Srila Prabhupada describes how the conscious self or soul perpetually transmigrates to another body at the time of death. This was a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and this psychologist, religious psychologist named Professor Durkheim, 1974. 1974 means, quickly, anybody say how many years back? 38, no? No, 38. 48. 48 years back. 48 years back conversation. Still fresh. See,
Huh?
see, this,
నువ్వు చూడగానే ఇప్పుడు 9:25 అన్నాను 5 ని మైండ్ లోనే నువ్వు 2 తో డివైడ్
yeah, that's okay. Mata is speaking. It's okay. So now, 1974 means it's 48 years back. But still, it is fresh, these teachings, because these are the mundane material topics. These are always there. That's the reason, always fresh, these topics. Any number of times we can read. So two devotees, Venela Matai, Samyukta Matai, you can read some part, right? One, you can choose yourself, either you Srila Prabhupada or Durkheim. Okay, start reading, please.
yes Prabhuji.
Yeah, Venela Matai.
Sure, read Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, go ahead. Start reading.
In my work, I have found that the natural ego doesn't like to die. But if you go through it, a near-death experience, you seem to cross the threshold of death to quite a different reality.
Yes, it is different. The experience is like that of a deceased person regaining his health.
So the person who is dead experience a higher level of reality.
It's not the person who has died, but the body. According to Vedic knowledge, the body is always dead. For example, a microphone is made of metal. When electric energy passes through the microphone, it responds by converting sound into electrical impulses, which are amplified and broadcast over loudspeakers. But when there is no electricity in the system, nothing happens. Whenever the microphone is working or not, it remains nothing more than an assembly of metal, plastic, etc. Similarly, the human body works because of the living force within. When this living force leaves the body, it is said that the body is dead. But actually, it is always dead. The living force is the important element. Its presence alone makes the body appear to be alive. But alive or dead is the physical body is nothing more than a collection of dead matter. The first teaching of Bhagavad Gita reveals that the condition of material body is ultimately not very important. Asosya nanmasosya prajnavadam se bhasase gatasu nagatasum cha nanusochanti pandita. The blessed Lord said, while speaking the learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor dead. Bhagavad Gita 2.11. The dead body is not real subject for philosophical inquiry. Rather, we should concern ourselves with the active principle, that principle which makes the dead body move, the soul.
Hare Krishna. We just want to add one thing. Yeah. One of the verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 11th verse. Who is saying this? This is the first starting point.
Yes, Krishna.
Krishna started speaking from Bhagavad.
Arjuna put forth all his points of why he doesn't want to fight.
Yeah, he doesn't want to fight. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So from there, Krishna's conversation starts with Arjuna. So the dead body is not the real subject for philosophical inquiry. Rather, we should concern ourselves with the active, that principle which makes the body move, the soul. So that's the thing. Okay, continue, Mataji. Yes. Samyukta Mataji.
Yes, Prabhupada. How do you teach your disciples to become aware of this force which is not matter, but which makes matter appear alive? I can intellectually appreciate that you are speaking a philosophy which contains the truth. I don't doubt it, but how do you make a person feel it?
How to perceive the soul? It is a very simple matter. There's an active principle which makes the body move. When it is absent, the body no longer moves. So the real question is, what is that active principle? This inquiry lies in the heart of Vedanta philosophy. In fact, the Vedanta Sutra begins with the aphorism Athato Brahma Jignasa. What is the nature of self within the body? Therefore, the student of Vedic philosophy is first taught to distinguish the difference between a living body and a dead one. If he is unable to grasp this principle, then we ask him to consider the problem from the standard point of logic. Anyone can see the body is changing and moving because of the presence of the active principle, the soul. In the absence of the active principle, the body neither changes or moves nor moves. So there must be something within the body that makes it move. It is not a very difficult concept. The body is always dead. It is like a big machine. A tape recorder is made of dead matter, but as soon as the living person pushes the button, it works. Similarly, the body is also dead matter. But within the body is the life force. As long as this active principle remains within the body responds and appears alive. For example, we all have the power to speak. If I ask one of my students to come here, he will come. But the active principle, if the active principle leaves the body, I may call him for thousands of years, but he will not come. This is simple to understand. But what exactly is that active principle? That is a separate subject matter, and the answer to that question is the real beginning of spiritual knowledge.
Hare Krishna. So nicely explaining. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So what is that active principle in our body? Hare Krishna.
Soul.
Soul. Okay. Unless soul's presence is not there in the body, there is no value. And again, not active. Body is not active. See, the different names of that soul, like pranam. If somebody, అరే చనిపోయిండ్రు, ప్రాణం పోయింది, జీవం పోయింది, ఇవన్నీ మాట్లాడతాం కదా. ఆ జీవము, ప్రాణము, చనిపోవడం అంటే ఏంది? Because the soul is left from that body. See, Srila Prabhupada so nicely explaining, right? So it is easy to understand what is a body, what is soul. And the soul, so how can we experience the soul is there in the body? Because of the consciousness. Right? Yeah, that's the thing. Go ahead. Mataji, you can read this. Yeah,
Yes, Prabhuji. I can understand the point you made about the dead body, that there must be something within to make it alive. The only proper conclusion is that we are talking about two things, the body and the active principle. But my real question is, how do we become aware of the active principle within ourselves as a direct experience and not simply as an intellectual conclusion? On the inner path, isn't it important to actually experience this deeper reality?
See, Mataji, Prabhupada, this question is asking by this professor, and subtopics, how to perceive the soul. And Srila Prabhupada explaining each different topics. Now here, Srila Prabhupada talks about, I am Brahman, spirit. The question, on the inner path, isn't it important to actually experience this deeper reality? Who is asking this? This is, religious psychologist asking. But my real question is, how do we become aware of the active principle within ourselves as a direct experience and not simply as an intellectual conclusion? It's a very, very wonderful question you put forward. On the inner path, isn't it important to actually experience this deeper reality? Now Srila Prabhupada is answering. Go ahead. Vanilla Mataji, you can read here till this point.
I am Brahman spirit. You yourself are the active principle. The living body and the dead body are different. The only difference is the presence of the active principle. When it is not there, the body is called dead. So the real self is identical with the active principle. In the Vedas, we find the maxim Soham, I am the active principle. It is also said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am not this material body. I am the Brahman spirit. That is self-realization. The self-realization is described in Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. When one is self-realized, he is neither hankers nor laments. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu. He is equal to everyone, men, animals, all living beings.
Very good. Thank you. Mataji, thank you. Yes, you both read so nicely. So let us give an opportunity to other devotees. Okay. So what is the first? Understand this. What is this?
Aham Brahmasmi.
Aham Brahmasmi. What does it mean, Madhavi?
I am not body, I am the soul.
That's a starting point for a spiritual life. I am not this body, I am spirit, soul. So how can you understand I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul? Through Vedic literature, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So that's the thing. I am not this body, I am spirit, soul. That is a starting point for a self-realization. Prabhupada writes immediately this Brahma Bhutma Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. When one is self-realized, there is a long way to go for all of us. When one is self-realized, he neither hankers nor laments. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu is equal to everyone, men, animal, and all living beings. But we have to work for it. No, Brahma Bhuta stage. The Prasannatma. It's a gradual process, but it's being taken place. Sincerely put effort, Krishna is going to give that. Yeah. So now next set of devotees. I'm seeing here. Yeah, Sirisha Mataji, and I am asking one more Mataji. Lakshmi Mataji, are you ready to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm also ready.
Swapna Matadi, chalo. Yes. Swapna Matadi, Shirisha Matadi. Both of you were acting as one is professor, one is Srila Prabhupada. Choose yourselves and continue reading. మీరు శిరీష మధ్య ప్రొఫెసరా శీల ప్రభుపాదనా ఏదో చూస్ చేసుకుంటారు
Professor. Professor. What his name, Prabhuji?
జైన్ చదవండి మత
Consider this, one of your student might say, I am spirit, but he might not be able to experience it.
How can he not experience it? He knows that he is active principle. Everyone ultimately knows that they are not the body. Even a child knows it. We can observe this by examining the way we speak. We say, this is my finger. We never say, I finger. So what is that I? This is self-realization. I am not this body. And this realization can be extended to other living beings. Why does man kill animals? Why give trouble to others? One who is self-realized can see, here is another self. He simply has a different body, but the same active principle that exists within my body is operating within his body. The self-realized person sees all living entities with equal vision, knowing that the active principle, the self, is present not only in human beings, but within the bodies of animals, birds, fish, insects, trees, and plants as well. Reincarnation in this life. The active principle is the soul, and the soul transmigrates from one body to another at the time of death. The body may be different, but the self remains the same. We can observe this change of body even within our own lifetime. We have transmigrated from babyhood to childhood, from childhood to youth, and from youth to adulthood. Yet, all the while, the conscious self or soul has remained the same. The body is material and the actual self is spiritual. When one comes to this understanding, he is called self-realized.
I think we are now arriving at a very decisive moment in the Western world, because for the first time in our history, people in Europe and America are starting to take seriously the inner experiences by which truth is revealed. Of course, in the East, there have always been philosophers who have known the experiences by which death loses its terrifying character and becomes the threshold to a more complete life. People need this experience of overcoming their usual bodily habits, and if they can break through that bodily experience, they suddenly realize that quite a different principle is operating within themselves. They become aware of the inner life.
A devotee of Lord Krishna automatically realizes that different principle because he never thinks, I am this body. He thinks, Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit soul. The first instruction given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is this. My dear Arjuna, you are very seriously considering the condition of the body, but a learned man does not take this material body, either dead or alive, very seriously. This is the first realization on the path of spiritual process. Everyone in this world is very much concerned with the body, and when it is alive, they take care of it in so many ways. What it is dead, they erect grand statues and monuments over it. This is body consciousness. But no one understands that active principle which gives the body beauty and life, and that at the time of death, no one knows where the real self, the active principle, has gone. That is ignorance.
Yes, Mata, thank you. Actually, I wanted to add one point here. The first instruction given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is, my dear Arjuna, you are very seriously considering the condition of the body, but learned man does not take this material body, either dead or alive, very seriously. See, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's attachment to his relatives, his brothers, his great grandfathers, his teachers. It's called, Prabhupada writes this statement, it's called bodily concept of life. Attaching to those bodies, attachments, bodily concept of life. So, first starting point, what Krishna is saying here, you are very seriously considering the condition of the body. That means you are in the still bodily platform. You are so much attached to these relatives, friends, great grandfathers, teachers, brothers. But again, he's saying, but a learned man does not take this material body, either dead, alive, or alive, very seriously. That's the starting point. So, see, again, this is the body consciousness, but no one understands that active principle which gives the body beauty and life. And at the time of death, no one knows where the real self, the active principle, has gone. That is ignorance. Yeah, Sirisha, Mother, continue.
During World War, when I was a young man, I spent 4 years at the front. I was one of 2 officers in my regiment who was not wounded on the battlefield. I saw death again and again. I saw people standing just next to me get hit, and suddenly their life force was gone. All that was left, as you say, was a body without a soul. But when death was near and I accepted that I also might die, I realized that within myself was something that has nothing whatsoever to do with death.
Swapna Mata.
Hare Krishna, brother. Yes, this is self-realization.
This experience of war marked me very deeply. It was the beginning of my inner path.
In the Vedas, it is said, Narayana para sarve na
Kutaschat.
Praschana Bibhyate.
Praschit bibhyati. If one is a good God realized soul, if one is a God realized soul, he is not afraid of anything.
So Srila Prabhupada's beginning name his father has given. Anybody knows?
No, Prabhuji.
Anybody?
Abhay Charan.
Abhay Charan. Abhay Charan. When we surrender to Supreme Lord, the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, we become fearlessness. So there is no question of after fear, because he is going to take away who? Krishna. So his father, Gaur Mohande, especially given the name like Abhay Charan. Abhay means fearlessness. Charan means at the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. So that's I am remembering that. No, yes. The important is statement. See, Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bibhyati. It's so nice. So nice. Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Mataji. Sirisha Mataji.
The process of self-realization is a sequence of inner experiences, isn't it? Here in Europe, the people have gone through such experiences. In fact, I believe this is the real treasure of Europe, that there are so many people who went through the battlefields, through the concentration camps, through the bombing raids, and within their hearts, they retain the memories of those moments when death was near, when they were wounded and nearly torn in pieces, and they experienced a glimpse of their eternal nature. But now it's necessary to show people that they don't need a battlefield, a concentration camp, or a bombing raid in order to take seriously those inner experiences when one is suddenly touched by a sense of divine reality and understands that this bodily existence is not the all and all, not the all and all.
Miss Mataji. Yeah, continue. Swapna Mataji, this is the last paragraph. You can continue.
Hare Krishna. We can experience that every night. When we dream, our body lies on the bed, but we go somewhere else. In this way, we all experience that our real identity is separate from this body. When we dream, we forgot the body lying on the bed. We act in different bodies and in different locations. Similarly, during the day, we forgot our dream bodies in which we traveled to so many places. Perhaps in our dream bodies, we flew in the sky. At night, we forgot our walking body, and in the daytime, we forgot our dream body. But our consciousness self, the soul, still exists, and we remain aware of our existence in both bodies. Therefore, we must conclude that we are not any of these bodies. For some time, we exist in a certain body, then at death, we forget it. So the body is really only a mental structure, somewhat like a dream, but the self is different from all these mental structures. That is self realization. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna says, Indriyani parani ahur, indriyebhya param mana, manasastu parabuddhir, yo buddha paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Hare Krishna.
Super. I can say super verse, one of the super verses of Bhagavad Gita. See how these senses, Krishna himself is saying, Indriyani parani ahur, Indriyebhya param manaha, manastu para buddhir, yo buddhe parastu tusaha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than senses. Intelligence still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So if assume that, think about it, all the Krishna conscious activities on the soul platform. That's where Prabhupada writes. Prabhupada says that whoever follows the path of Krishna Bhakti, you're an intelligent person. Because we are working, we are acting on the soul platform. Right? So we have to understand, see, this is the highest thing. The soul is the topmost thing. Beyond dull matter, beyond working senses, beyond mind, beyond intelligence. There's a topmost situation, soul. So that's where the more we perform soul-related activities, especially Bhakti Yoga related activities, Shravanam Kirtanam, the life is going to be blissful. That's what I mean. Indriyani para, one of the super verse. Yes, thank you very much, both of you, Matajis. Sirisha Mataji and Swapna Mataji. Now I'm asking another two devotees. Likita Mataji, are you ready to read something?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And then Lakshmi Mataji, you want to do?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, sisters. Lakshmi Mataji, Likita Mataji. Chalo.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. మీరు 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 మీ చెల్లెని శ్రీల ప్రభుపాద చేస్తారా లేకపోతే మీరు శ్రీల ప్రభుపాద మీ ఇష్టం
Okay.
చేయండి చదవండి లిఖిత మాతది మీరు శ్రీల ప్రభుపాద చదవండి
Earlier today we spoke about the false ego. Did you mean that the real ego is the false?
Yes, that is the pure ego. For instance, now I have this 78-year-old Indian body, and I have this false ego that thinks I am an Indian. I am this body. This is a misconception. Someday this temporary body will vanish and I will get another temporary body. It's just a temporary illusion. The reality is that the soul, based on its desire and activities, transmigrates from one body to another.
Can consciousness exist apart from the material body?
Yes, pure consciousness. The soul does not need a material body. For instance, when you dream, you forget your present body, but you still remain conscious. The soul, the consciousness is like water. Water is pure, but as soon as it falls from the sky and touches the ground, it becomes muddy.
Yes.
Similarly, we are spirit souls. We are pure. But as soon as we leave the spiritual world and come in contact with these material bodies, our consciousness become covered. The consciousness remain pure, but now it is covered by mud, this body. And this is why people are fighting. They are wrongly identifying with the body, thinking I am German, I am English, I am black, I am white, I am this, I am that. So many bodily designations. These bodily designations are impurities. This is why artists sculpt or paint nude figures. In France, for example, they regard nakedness as pure art. Similarly, when you understand the nakedness or true condition of the spirit soul, without these bodily designations, that is purity.
So
Why
nice.
does it appear to be so difficult to understand that one is different from the body?
Everyone knows I am not this body. It is not difficult. You can experience it. This is it is not only it is only because of foolishness that people think differently. But everyone really knows I am not this body. This is very easy to experience. I am existing. I understand that I have existed in a baby's body. I have existed in a child's body and also in a boy's body. I have existed in so many bodies and now I am in an old man's body. Or for example, you have now put on a black coat. The next moment you may put on white coat, but you are not that black or white coat. You have simply changed coats. If I call you the black coat, that is my foolishness. Similarly, in my lifetime, I have changed bodies many times, but I am not any of these bodies. This is real knowledge.
Hare Krishna. Just continue with that.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And isn't there a difficulty? For instance, you may have already intellectually understood very well that you are not the body, but you may still have the fear of death. Doesn't that mean you didn't understand it by experience? As soon as you have understood by experience, you should have no fear of death because you know that you cannot really die.
Experience is received from a higher authority, from someone who has higher knowledge. Instead of my trying to experience for years and years that I am not this body, I can take the knowledge from God or Krishna, the perfect source. Then I have experienced my deathlessness by hearing from a bona fide authority that is perfect.
Yes, I understand.
Therefore, the Vedic instruction is Tad Vijnanartham Sa Gurum Eva Eva Big Eva
Ajit.
Bigchet.
Eva
In
Big.
order to get yes, in order to get first class experience of the perfection of life, you must approach a guru. And who is guru? Whom should I approach? I should approach someone who has heard perfectly from his guru. This is called disciplic succession. I hear from a perfect person and I distribute the knowledge in the same way without any change. Lord Krishna gives us knowledge in Bhagavad Gita and we distribute the same knowledge without changing it.
Over the past 20 or 30 years, there has been a great awakening of interest in spiritual topics in the western part of the world. But on the other hand, if scientists want to eliminate the human cell, they are well on the way to doing it with their atomic bombs and other technical innovations. If they want to guide humanity to some higher global, however, then they have to stop looking at man in a materialistic way through their scientific spectacles. They must look at us as we are, conscious selves.
The goal of a human life. The goal of a human life is self realization or God realization. But the scientists do not know that. Modern society is presently led by blind and foolish men. The so called technologists, scientists, and philosophers do not know the real aim of life. And the people themselves are blind as well. So we have a situation in which the blind are leading the blind. If a blind man tries to lead another blind man, what type of results can we expect? No, this is not the process. One must approach a self-realized person if he wants to understand the truth. More guests entering the room.
So now I am guest disciple. Srila Prabhupada, these gentlemen are professors of theology and philosophy. And this is Dr. Dara. He is the leader of the Society for Study of Yoga and Integral Philosophy here in Germany. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada greets them and the conversation resumes. Yes.
May I ask another question? Isn't there another level of experience that opens the door to some deeper consciousness for the common man?
Yes, that experience is described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2.30. Dehinu smin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir diras tatrana muhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in his body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change, but one must understand the basic principle of knowledge that I am not this body. When one understands this basic principle, then we can advance to deeper knowledge.
Sure, Mother.
It seems
Thank
to
you.
be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks to both of you, Mataji. Lakshmi
Yeah,
Mataji.
Krishna.
So get another devotees read also. Thank you. So this is the important one of the famous words. Frequently Prabhupada quotes this one. How can we support I am not this body? I am spirit soul. So this is what it is in connection with Atata Brahma Jigyasa. Right? Vedanta Sutra, there is a Vedanta Sutra principle. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. In connection with Atato Brahma Jigyasa, this is the verse spoken by Krishna. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jira tata dehantaram praptis dhira satrana muhyati. That means I am not this body. I am spirit soul. The soul passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Soul is witnessing these bodies. Right? So soul is witnessing these bodies. Right? From boyhood to youth. See, we check the same verse. Apply it to our life, our own life, whatever life we are in, whatever age right now we are in. Let us see, where is my childhood body? Where is my youthful body? Right? Where is my school time? How I was looking, because every minute, every second, the body is changing, and we have to experience the coming days. Like our body is going to be dwindle. That's the nature. 6 changes, you all know. But soul is not changeable. In our body, unchangeable thing, active principle, different names, is the soul. That's the thing. Soul's nature is Satchidananda Vigraha. Always blissful, always eternal, Satchit Ananda, knowledgeable. Yes, thank you very much again. So, Sapan Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you can read it, Prabhu. 1 second. Before that, there is one more verse. Yeah, we have gone through it. Yes, Indriyani Para. Yes. Read, Prabhu, from this. Now, let me see who else is not read. Yeah, everybody got chance. Yeah. Anybody likes to read along with Prabhu? I mean, we both of us read, Prabhu. Okay, you take, but I'll ask questions. Okay, I'm Professor Durkheim. It seems to me that there is a big difference between the Eastern and Western approaches to this problem of body and soul. In the teachings of the East, you have to become free of that body, whereas in Western religions, a person tries to realize the spirit within the body.
This is very easy to understand. We have heard from Bhagavad Gita that we are spirit, that we are within the body. Our sufferings come about because of the identification with the body. Because I have entered into this body, therefore I am suffering. So either Eastern or Western, my real business should be how to get out of this body. Is that point clear?
Yes.
The term reincarnation means that I am a spirit soul who has entered a body, but in my next life, I can enter another body. It may be a dog's body, it may be a cat's body, or it may be a king's body. But there will be suffering either in a king's body or in the dog's body. These suffering include birth, death, old age, and disease. So, in order to abolish these four kinds of suffering, we have to get out of the body. This is man's real problem, how to get out of this material body.
This takes many lives.
It can take many lives, or you can do it in one lifetime. If you understand in this life that your sufferings are due to this body, then you should inquire how to get out of the body. And when you get that knowledge, you will know the trick, how to get out of the body immediately.
But that doesn't mean that I have to kill the body, does it? Does it mean that I realize my spirit is independent from my body?
No, it isn't necessary that the body be killed. But when your body is killed or not, someday you will have to leave the present body and accept another one. That is nature's law, and you cannot avoid it.
It seems that there are some points here which are in accordance with Christianity as well.
It doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hindu. Knowledge is knowledge. Wherever knowledge is available, you must pick it up. And this is knowledge. Everything else, every living being is imprisoned within a material body. This knowledge applies equally to Hindus, Muslims, Christians, everyone. The soul is imprisoned within the body and must therefore undergo birth, death, old age, and disease. We all want to live eternally. We want full knowledge. We want full blissfulness. To attain this goal, we must get out of the body. This is the process.
You stress the point that we must get out of the body, but shouldn't we accept our existence as human beings?
You propose accepting our existence as human beings. Do you think that existing within this human body is perfect?
No, I don't say it is perfect, but we should accept this and not try to create some ideal situation.
How to become perfect? You admit that your condition is not perfect. Therefore, the correct idea should be to discover how to become perfect.
So nice. Srila Prabhupada, right? Another Professor Dara is there. Okay. But why do we have to become perfect as spirit? Why can't we become perfect as humans?
You have already admitted that your situation within this human body is not perfect. So why are you so attached to this imperfect situation?
This body is an instrument through which I can communicate with other people.
That is also possible for birds and bees.
But there is a big difference between the talking of birds and bees and our talking.
What is the difference? They are talking in their community and you are talking in your community.
Professor, I believe the real point is, that the animal has no self-consciousness. He does not understand what he is in essence.
Rising above the beast. Yes, that is the real point. A human being can understand what he is. The birds and bees cannot understand. So as humans, we should endeavor for self-realization and not simply act on the level of birds and bees. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra begins with the aphorism, Asato Brahma Jignasa. The human life is meant for inquiring about the absolute truth. That is the aim of human life, not eating and sleeping like the animals. We possess extra intelligence with which to understand the absolute truth in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10. It is said, Kamasya Nendriya Pratir, Labo Jiveta Yavata, Jivasya Tata Jignasa, Nartoya Cheha Karmavi. Life's desire should never be aimed at gratifying the senses. One should desire to live only because human life enables one to inquire about the absolute truth. This should be the goal of all works.
Super verse from Bhagavatam. Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yascheha karmabhihi. So human life is meant for self-realization. This statement ekkడి నుంచి వచ్చిందంటే ఇక్కడ నుండి వచ్చింది. Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 10th verse. We read many times. We hear many times this one, right? Human life is meant for self-realization. So he basically, life's desires should never be aimed at gratifying the senses. Prabhupada specifically writes this word, sense gratification, gratifying the senses. Indriya Tripti, in a Sanskrit word in Telugu also. Indriya Tripti. One should desire to live only because human life enables one to inquire about the absolute truth. That should be the goal of all works. So high statement and a serious statement. So we have to use it, this human form of life, especially. We have developed intelligence, developed consciousness, distinctive behavior, distinctive, this thing, discrimination power we have. That's why human life is a serious business. We have to understand that. And this is supporting statement from Bhagavatam. Human life is meant for self-realization only. That is the goal. Yes. Go, let me read. But is it just a waste of time to use our bodies to do good to others? Sapan Prabhuji.
Sorry, I was on mute, Prabhuji. Yeah. You cannot do good to others because you do not know what good is. You are thinking of good in terms of body, but the body is false in the sense that you are not the body. For instance, you might occupy an apartment, but you are not that apartment. If you simply decorate the apartment and forget to eat, can that be good?
I don't think this comparison of the body with a room is very good.
That's because you don't know that you're not the body.
But if we go out of a room, the room remains. When we go out of the body, it doesn't remain.
Eventually, the room will also be destroyed.
What I mean to say is that there must be a very intimate connection between the body and the soul, a kind of oneness, at least, as long as we are alive.
No, that is not real oneness. There is a difference. For instance, the room we are presently in is important to me as long as I am alive. Otherwise, it has no importance. When the soul leaves the body is thrown away, even though it was very dear to its owner.
But what if you don't want to separate from your body?
It is not a question of what you want. You must separate. As soon as your death comes, your relatives will throw out your body.
Perhaps it makes a difference if a person thinks, I am the spirit and I have a body, rather than I am the body and I have a soul.
Yes, it is a mistake. The secret of immortality. Yes, it is a mistake to think that you are the body and possess a soul. That is not true. You're the soul. You're covered by a temporary body. The soul is the important thing, not the body. For example, as long as you wear a coat, it is important to you. But if it becomes stone, you throw it away and purchase another coat. The living being constantly experiences the same thing. You separate from this present body and accept another body. That is called death. The body which you previously occupied becomes unimportant, and the body you now occupy becomes important. This is a big problem. People give so much importance to a body that within a few short years will be exchanged for another one.
That's the thing. Death is imminent. So through death, after death, this body is going to be changed. We never know. We may get human body or animal body, species different. 84 lakh species, different bodies there. People give so much importance to a body that within a few short years, will be exchanged for another one. There is one verse, right? Bhagavad Gita. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya. So changing dresses. So that's the thing we have to understand. So this chapter done, changing bodies. Basically, we have to understand that. So body is temporary. It's the eternal soul. Soul is eternal. So if a body is having the body becomes valuable. When the soul left the body is useless. It is lying on the ground. That's it. It won't move, nothing, and thrown away. Right? And there is one statement I'm remembering now. So this is the statement. We are experiencing there is one verse. We are experiencing human form in the soul right now. In the soul's perspective, now we are experiencing human form. So there are different experiences again. Experiences is nothing but different bodily experiences. So in this material world, there are different kinds of species there. According to desires and activities, they assume that body, and that body is temporary, changing, assuming another body according to karma, activities. So, but when a person utilizes life for the higher purpose, param društva nivartate, understand this verse seriously, 1 to 10, using for higher purpose, using this life is for higher purpose, is nothing but in Krishna's service, then our life becomes successful. Unless we use in that way, there is no value. Again, cycle of birth and death comes, changing different bodies, reincarnations, different bodies, reincarnations. It happens. So now let us go through the chapter, the other section. Okay. So that's the thing. So we have read so far to changing body, the soul research, sub chapter 3. So please read any Mataji. Samyukta Mata, can you read? Chapter
Yes,
3.
Prabhuji. Chapter 3. A famous heart surgeon urges systematic research into the soul, and Srila Prabhupada cites the Vedic version, thousands of years older and strikingly more informative than modern medical science.
So title is
Soul
Soul Research. So this is in the text form only. So we will read from devotees. Okay, Mata, you can continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. Chapter 3, Soul Research. Although advanced in understanding the mechanical workings of the physical body, modern science gives little attention to analyzing the spiritual spark that animates the body. In the Montreal Gazette article reproduced below, we find world-famous cardiologist Wilfred G. Bigelow urging systematic research to determine what the soul is and where it comes from. Reproduced next is Srila Prabhupada's letter in response to Dr. Bigelow's plea. Srila Prabhupada presents substantial Vedic evidence about the silence of the soul and suggests a practical method for scientifically understanding this spiritual spark that gives the body life and makes reincarnation a reality. Montreal Gazette headline: Heart surgeon wants to know what a soul is.
Yes, continue.
Windsor. A world famous Canadian heart surgeon says he believes the body has a soul which departs at death and says theologians ought to try to find out more about it. Dr. Wilfred G. Bigelow, head of the cardiovascular surgery unit at Toronto General Hospital, said that as a person who believes there is a soul, he thought the time had come to take the mystery out of this and find out what it is. Bigelow was a member of a panel which appeared before the Essex County Medical Legal Society to discuss problems associated with attempts to define the exact moment of death. The question has become vital in the age of transplants of hearts and other organs in cases when the donors are inevitably dying. The Canadian Medical Association has produced a widely accepted definition of death as the moment when the patient is in coma, responds to no stimulus of any kind, and brain waves recorded on a machine are flat. The other members of the panel were Justice Edson L. Haynes of the Ontario Supreme Court and J. Francis Leddy, President of the University of Windsor. Bigelow, elaborating on points he had raised during the discussion, said in an interview later that his 32 years as a surgeon had left him no doubts that there is a soul. Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I will give it to other devotees. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mata. Yes. Vela Mata, you can read from here.
Yes. One of them from here only.
There are certain cases.
Certain cases when you happen to be present at the moment when people pass from living state to death and some mysterious changes take place. One of the most noticeable in the sudden lack of life or luster to the eyes. They become opaque and literally lifeless. It is difficult to document what you observe. In fact, I don't think it can be documented very well. Bigelow, who became world renowned for his pioneering work in the deep freeze surgical technique known as hypothermia and for his heart valve surgery, said soul research should be undertaken by theology and allied disciplines within the university. During this discussion, Leddy said that if there is a soul, you are not going to see it. You are not going to find it. If there is a principle of vitality or life, what is it? The problem is that the soul doesn't exist anywhere, especially geographically. It is everywhere and yet it's nowhere. It will be nice to start experimenting, but I don't know how we are going to get data on these things, Leddy said. He said the discussion reminded him of the Soviet cosmonaut who returned from space to report that there was no God because he didn't find him up there. Should I stop to you?
Go ahead, these two.
Maybe so, said Bigelow. In the modern medicine, when something was encountered that could not be experienced, the watchword is discover the answer, take it to the laboratory, take it to somewhere where you can discover the truth. The central question, said Bigelow, is where is the soul and where does it come from?
Then Srila Prabhupada is replying in the Vedic evidence. Srila Prabhupada presents the Vedic evidence. Okay. You can continue, Mataji. Another 2 paragraphs you can read.
Okay. My dear Dr. Bigelow, please accept my greetings. I recently read an article in the Gazette by Ray Caroli entitled Heart Surgeon Wants to Know What a Soul Is and found it very interesting. Your comments show great insight, so I thought I would write to you on this matter. Perhaps you may know that I am the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I have several temples in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Hamilton. This Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant to teach every soul his original spiritual position. Undoubtedly, the soul is present in the heart of the living entity, and it is the source of all energy which maintains this body. The energy of the soul is spread all over the body, and this is known as consciousness. Since this consciousness spreads the energy of the soul all over the body, one feels pain and pleasure in every part of the body. The soul is individual and it transmigrates from one body to another, just as a person transmigrates from boyhood to youth and then to advanced old age. Death takes place when we change to a new body, just as we change from our old dress to a new dress. This is called transmigration of soul.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. See, this is what Srila Prabhupada, how nicely attracting, the words. This Krishna consciousness movement is specifically meant to teach every soul his original spiritual position, and is giving the knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata, and Vedic literature. Right? So this is what. So the soul, undoubtedly the soul is present. This is important to understand. Be nice to read repeatedly. Undoubtedly, the soul is present in the heart of the living entity, and it is the source of all the energies which maintain the body. The energy of the soul is spread all over the body. How? This is known as consciousness. Since this consciousness spreads the energy of the soul all over the body, one feels pains and pleasures in every part of the body. That's the thing. The soul is individual and it transmigrates from one body to another. We have seen that Dehinosmin, different changes, changing dresses, etc. Yeah, from here, we'll read another devotees. Okay. Sirisha Mataji or Likita Mataji, would you like to read? Hare Krishna Mataji.
Prabhuji, can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, read, take up.
When a soul wants to enjoy this material world, forgetting his real home in the spiritual world, he takes this life of hard struggle for existence. This unnatural life of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age can be stopped when his consciousness is devoted with the supreme consciousness of God. That is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness movement. As far as heart transplants are concerned, there is no question of success unless the recipient soul enters into the transplanted heart. So the presence of soul must be accepted. In sexual intercourse, if there is no soul, there is no conception, no pregnancy. Contraception deteriorates the womb so that it is no longer a good place for the soul. That is against the order of God. By the order of God, a soul is sent to a particular womb, but by by contraceptive methods, he is denied that womb and has to be placed in another. That is disobedience to the supreme. For example, take a man who is supposed to live in a particular apartment. If the situation there is so disturbed that he cannot enter the apartment, then he is put at a great disadvantage. That constitutes illegal interference and is punishable by law. The undertaking of soul research would certainly mark the advancement of science, but no matter how much science advances, they will not be able to find the soul. The soul's presence can simply be accepted on circumstantial understanding. For you will find in the Vedic literature that the dimension of soul is 1,000th the size of a point. Therefore, it is not possible for the material scientist to capture the soul. You can simply accept the soul's existence by taking it from higher authorities. What the greatest scientists are now finding to be true, we have explained long ago. As soon as one understands the existence of the soul, he can immediately understand the existence of God. The difference between God and the soul is that God is very great soul and the living entity is a small, very small soul, but qualitatively they are equal. God is all pervading and the living entity is localized, but the nature and the quality are the same. The central question you say is, where is the soul and where does it come from? That is not difficult to understand. We have already discussed how the soul is residing in the heart of living entity and how it takes shelter in another body after death. Originally the soul comes from God, just as a spark that comes from a fire appears to be extinguished when it falls away from the fire. The spark of the soul originally comes from the spiritual world to the material world. In the material world, the soul falls down into three different conditions called as modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When a spark of fire falls on the dry glass, the fiery quality continues. When the spark falls on the ground, it cannot display its fiery manifestation unless some combustible materials are present. And when the spark falls on water, it is extinguished. In this way, we find the soul takes up three kinds of living conditions. One living entity is completely forgetful of his spiritual nature. Another is almost forgetful, but still has an instinct of spiritual nature. And another is completely in search of spiritual perfection. There is a bona fide method for the attainment of spiritual perfection by the spiritual spark of soul. And if he is properly guided, he is very easily sent back home, back to Godhead, from where he originally fell. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Done. You can continue.
Yeah, it will be a great contribution to human society if this authorized information from the Vedic literature is presented on the basis of modern scientific understanding. The facts are already there. It simply has to be presented for modern understanding. If the doctors and scientists of the world can help man understand the science of the soul, this will be a great contribution. Sincerely yours, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada replied to that scientist, Big Love. Who is this guy? Surgeon, cardiovascular surgery. Responding to this message. So important things. So just want to read one part of this. As far as heart transplants are concerned, there is no question of success unless the recipient's soul enters into the transplanted heart. So how can we understand this? See, when heart transplantation takes place, that means that the soul, of course, the soul resides in the heart. The soul also transferred to another body. How can? It's not there, because even though art transplantation, that person having the same nature, having the same feelings, no change. That is not success. That's where Srila Prabhupada, there is no question of success. What is that success? Unless, completely change the soul, but it's not possible. Of course, soul is a minute particle. It's a 1/10 tip of the hair, 10,000s. One hair is there, for example, and it cut into 10,000 parts. In the 10,000 part, the tip of the hair. So we cannot be able to perceive or see. So this is what we have to understand. Like, unless the recipient's soul enters into the transplanted heart, right? In heart transplantation, that heart is somebody's heart, transplanting into another body. That means the other person's soul is transferring. No, it's not possible, because when that heart transplanted take place in that the particular person, is same nature, same feeling, same experiences. There is no change. So that's where Srila Prabhupada talks about next. So the presence of the soul must be accepted. It's still there, even though heart taken place, the soul is still there, and which we cannot see where the soul is existing, because our senses are limited. We cannot see that. Even the scientific microscopes or bioscope, whatever that, cannot they won't be able to find out. But Veda says that soul's size. That's the thing. So soul's presence we have to accept. Even though heart transplantation takes place, the person behaves same like that, experiences, reacts, and whatever. It won't change. It won't be changed. The undertaking of soul research would certainly mark the advancement of science. But no matter, Prabhupada writes this statement, says, but no matter how much science advances, they will not be able to find the soul. The soul's presence can simply be accepted on circumstantial understanding. For you will find in the Vedic literature that the dimension of the soul, 1/10,000th the size of the point, the tip of the hair. Therefore, it is not possible for the material scientist to capture the soul. You can simply accept the soul's existence. That's it, period. By taking it from higher authorities. Higher authorities, Krishna, who is created for all these souls. What the great scientists are now finding to be true, we have explained long ago. That's there. So again, Prabhupada writes, where is the soul and where does it come from? That is not difficult to understand. We have already discussed how the soul is residing in the heart of the living entity and how it takes shelter in another body after death. Transmigration to one body to another body. It has to be, see, Krishna has created the material laws, material nature, how the bodies are changing. The soul is transferring from one body to another body because it is in his direction. Karmana daiva netrena janta deha upapatti. In his daiva netrena, under his laws, under his created laws, this soul is taking place, one body to another body. Not mechanical means that heart transplantation, etc., they cannot do. We just have to understand from higher authorities. It can be done through Krishna only, and Krishna's creation, Krishna's laws, how one body to another body is going to take place. So that is not difficult to understand. We have already discussed how the soul is residing in the heart of the living entity, and how it takes shelter in another body after death. Originally, the soul comes from God. Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Just as a spark that comes from a fire appears to be extinguished when it falls away from the fire. The spark of soul originally comes from the spiritual world to the material world. This is one important actually. I'm reading. In the material world, the soul falls down into three different conditions. త్రిగుణాత్మకమైనటువంటిది. What is that? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. When a spark of fire falls on dry grass. See, this is what Acharyas, how nicely explaining different conditions. See, with the analogy. See, when a spark of fire falls on dry grass, the fiery quality continues. Fire immediately burns. When the spark falls on the ground, it cannot display its fiery manifestation unless some combustible materials are present. Nipu padarthalu edana touch aitane, then it will activate that fiery manifestation. And when the spark falls on water, there is no question of coming out of fire. It is extinguished. Example, fire, nippu kanika antaru, fire spark, nippu kanika etla work chestundu atlantidi. In this way, we find the souls takes up three kinds of living conditions. One living entity is completely forgetful of his spiritual nature, completely. So they don't worry about, only there is no soul concept. They won't worry about, actually, most of the times, materialists. Another is almost forgetful, but still has an instinct of spiritual nature. And another is completely in search of spiritual perfection. Devotees, Krishna's devotees, soul's presence is there in the body. They are understanding. Again, the concept, Atatu Brahma Jigyasa. I am not this body, I am spirit soul. That is the concept. Research, soul research. This topic itself is soul research. There is a bona fide method for the attainment of spiritual perfection by the spiritual spark of the soul. And if he is properly guided, he is very easily sent back home, back to Godhead. So properly guided, see. Training, we require training. We require training. Our ISKCON centers and ISKCON community is training us to understand the soul's nature and work accordingly. What is expectation? How a soul has to perform his activities. It will be great contribution to human society if this authorized information from Vedic literature is presented on the basis of some modern scientific understanding. The facts are already there. It simply has to be presented for modern understanding. The doctors and scientists of the world can help man understand the science of the soul. This will be a great contribution. See, these are the, this letter to a this letter is sending to that person. BGL is a cardiovascular surgery. So this information, if we spread to these people, all this world, it will be helpful. At least not everybody practice, not everybody get to the platform of soul's concept. At least some people, fortunate people, right? So this is the three kinds of beings, and Prabhupada writing here, right? One living entity completely forgetfulness of spiritual nature. Another is almost forgetful, but some inclination is there. But another is completely search for spiritual perfection. We never know. That's where Prabhupada always, one of the pleasing activity of Srila Prabhupada is book distribution, right? So that's where when we distribute books, we never know that the spark is going to ignite. The person maybe come to the platform of spiritual understanding and practice bhakti. We never know. We just have to put some endeavor. We have to distribute books and give this knowledge. That's where the ISKCON is a preaching mission. ISKCON is not for only temple. So there is a great responsibility to distribute this knowledge far and wide, right? So that's the thing. So we are done with our time, on time. So 8 o'clock avutundi manaku soul research. So on Friday, let us start with the other chapter. What is that one? Other chapter. Yeah. Let us start the 3 histories of reincarnation. Maybe that one. Bharat Maharaj, how his consciousness takes place and took birth in 3 different forms. That is chapter 4. Let us read on Friday. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, let us wrap it up. Samyukta Mataji, Venala Mataji, Sapan Prabhu, Sirisha Mataji. Anybody have any questions?
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. Reading Srila Prabhupada small books. So nice. Firstly, all the scientists' names, all the scientists, how they put forward these statements, how this heart transplantation takes place, how the soul is there, and Prabhupada how is he sending that letter to that surgeon. And these are all the very, very nicely. That's where how is Srila Prabhupada preaching in his time, how he started, how he is giving this knowledge. By reading his books, we understand Srila Prabhupada mood. Paradukha dukhi. So this if we give this knowledge, a fortunate soul come in contact with proper understanding of soul concepts. So that's the thing. Thank you so much. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha krupa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Let us read on Friday.